Live streaming is on.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Dan Gay, Chief Marketing Officer of BlockCerts Blockchain, and it's great to have you here this morning or this evening from wherever you're coming from. RAC Mauritius is on, Africa. We've got Canada, people from all over the country, all over the world, and thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to be truly talking about the world from here, and it's good to see you this morning here, Tim.
Good being here, Dan. It's been a long week and just in general.
It has. I was just talking to my wife saying, what happened to this week? It's just been a blur.
I know it started Monday and here we are at 9:30 Friday morning on the West Coast, and it's just nuts. And I guess we're going to talk about that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was going to say. The big developments have been transpiring, right under our noses. And a lot of times you don't really realize unless you step back and see kind of the picture that's forming. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Crypto and blockchain, they're really taking center stage with many different things that we're going to talk about today. And I just think it's fascinating what we're going to talk about. And I was just going to, put this up here that, what do crypto and supply chain, Willy Wonka and Jeff Bezos have to do with each other?
Let's get into it. Let's see how all those things come together today.
Exactly.
And kind of get into what is happening in the world from here. I love this one, Dan, because as you said, blockchain takes the center stage, and that's really what it's about, is bringing these pieces together. And I think far too often we see these things happening out there that are disconnected, as we always talk about, and people miss the whole point that that blockchain is actually a way to connect all of these pieces and really solve a lot of these missing links and missing puzzle pieces. So with that, let's talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the world from here. Striketober. Welcome to Striketober. Who knew? Turns out we did, right? I mean, we unlock, and then all of a sudden people are, going, wait a minute, maybe we don't want to go back to work. Maybe work sucks the way it was designed pre-pandemic. Maybe we kind of enjoyed having more flexibility, having life with our families. And if we're going to put our butts on the line, on the front lines, and we're not going to get rewarded with part of that record-making profit,
right?
Well, we're going to start the picket lines again.
Yeah, there's a disconnect there. And I was at the store the other night getting some supplies, and they were out of toilet paper and paper towels. And, also a friend of mine lives in California and said there are over 70 ships that are just out waiting, sitting there. So I know we're going to talk about that too.
It's crazy. And so what's that got to do with what's going on? And so you kind of go to the next phase, and look, it's not just there on the street with picket lines, it's inside offices. The Great Resignation, is happening, and it's not just happening in North America, it's all over, right?
Right.
And this kind of model of disconnection that we've really been talking about and looking at for a long, long time. And the question is, there are certain obvious whys. But the thing that struck me, I was getting these tweets as this week's transpiring, and I love this one. John Deere is trying to break a strike by having salaried office workers operate heavy machinery. Let's see how that's going. And this one didn't even make it till 8 a.m. without a 911 call. It says a non-union salaried worker just crashed a tractor inside the plant. Oops.
Well, hello, of course.
There's this idea of skill sets, guys.
Right. Experience.
Don't take somebody who's used to driving a computer and put them behind a big tractor.
Right. They say 10,000 hours to perfect a job.
Just to make a point. There's a reason we have skills, and there's a reason all of us are here. and some of us can do stuff. I do really crappy stuff sometimes. I mean, let's just make a point of what it is. But it's interesting. The lasting effect of this pandemic will be a revolution in worker expectations, and I think that's what changed, right?
Yeah, well, and you're just looking at statistics. 50% of the world is now, gig economy. It's those that are working from home or anywhere, and that's a trend that's not going to stop as we get back to work or as we're working.
Well, and to that point, three ways people are making money during the Great Resignation. One, freelancing. So employees who resign from their full-time jobs have delved into freelancing. Well, that's great for the flexibility and things like that. But how are we going to track all that stuff? Like, freelancing's great, and we've been doing global teams, as most people know that know BlockCerts. We're across 10 countries. We've got dozens and dozens of people in many of these countries, and we're completely virtual, right? We've been doing this for 8-9 years. And on our own platform.
Yeah.
Right.
But Tim, I have to say, coming into this universe of our work, it is a true art form in how you make that happen.
How you make virtual happen. How you build that trust, truth, and transparency within your organization when you are digital and you are virtual. And we got a secret sauce.
Yeah, we do.
It's called blockchain.
Yeah.
It's called BlockCerts Blockchain specifically. And that's the whole point. And then you start looking at other trends. So small businesses, which is awesome. If you go and read this Atlantic article about the Great Resignation, it's pretty interesting because the author says, this is great. This is what creates transformation, right? Yeah. And we're talking about transformation here. When we talk blockchain, when we talk crypto, when we talk Web 3.0, we talk about transformation. Right. And so small businesses are booming, record high for small business startups. Well, are those guys going to go buy 40-year-old technology?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. You don't run a business anymore on email and something that forces you to have Teams clicked on when you send a meeting invite. I mean, come on, really? 40 years, guys. Let's bring it forward. Let's do Web 3.0. Let's get a system in there that's not connected, that's not disconnected like all those puzzle pieces, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the new water cooler is virtual. And what's amazing about it is you can get more people around the water cooler talking and get more productivity. And if you look at just overall productivity, it's increased over the last year and a half, and that's because people aren't driving. They're working more than they ever had before. And I even look at my own habits. I used to take a little bit of a lunch, and then you run to go get coffee or whatever. But now I run and get coffee at the kitchen, and I'm back working. So
exactly, and I'm not walking through airports and going from meeting to meeting to boardroom to event to event, and talking to people. I'm actually working and getting stuff delivered and done at BlockCerts. So it's the same thing. And this last one, which is really what is always probably drawing people to the world from here, but it is one piece of the puzzle, is this investing idea of what people are doing with trying to invest in crypto, which really, as we've always said, is still just purely gambling for the most part. Like this cryptocurrency speculation stuff is really just, throw money on the wall and hope Elon gives you a positive tweet out there and not a negative one, because that's about the best you can do on analyzing that stuff. Right.
Well, although here recently we're seeing the rest of businesses going in that direction, which we're going to talk about.
Well, and that we're going to talk about in that point. But, if I sound, and we sound passionate about this, I just wanted to point out something that I wrote in 2016, the death of employer-employee paradigm in the digital age.
Right.
And, it wasn't exactly on point, but back then I was talking about, look, it's gonna change. It just doesn't make any sense anymore. This was 5 years ago when we started BlockCerts Blockchain. So, it was pretty obvious that there was going to be this kind of pushback, just the kind of the COVID pandemic. Hey, I can work from home. I can, as you say, Dan, be uber productive, without Uber taking me all over cities. And, I can really enjoy both the freedom of being at home, as well as, and if I have to go to work in a factory, I want more flexibility. Right. So there are things that you have to physically be there for.
Yeah, but there are also things, whole industries. Like I used to manage call centers in the past for a telecom company, and you can do that. You don't need cheeks in the seats any longer. You can be distributed anywhere around the world, which is way more effective. As you're going 24/7, answering calls and managing customers.
And I've been having talks with folks that come over and help me around the house doing projects and so forth. And I was talking to Mike this week, and I'm like, Mike, how fun is it for you to go home on a Friday night after working your butt off all week on all these different projects and jobs and doing paperwork, right? Small business. He goes, I hate it. I'm like, right. Let's let computers do that.
Yeah.
Well, you need 50 different projects, 50 different pieces of software to do that. And it's a pain. I'm like, not anymore. Not anymore. That's what I've been working on for 20 years. So yeah, if we're a little passionate today about what's going on out there, it's because it's infecting everybody's lives, including ours. And we've been kind of sitting there looking at this for a very long time. And there you go, Dan.
There
you go.
That was my picture.
Kind of says it all, doesn't it?
It does.
When we were in the middle of the pandemic, everybody thought, gee, this is a pandemic related thing. Well, not really. It's a worldwide phenomenon, and it's worldwide, even in China. I mean, look at this. This is from the China macro economy. Is this China's Great Resignation? Freelancers hope at the uncertainty to bid the 9 to 5 grind. Why not? That's what people are saying is, why not? Why would we keep going at this? So as a result, you end up with this, right?
Right.
And what are the corporate guys doing? What are they looking at? The big centralized companies. They're calling in these consulting firms that are kind of stuck in old paradigms to get the contract and make the fee, right?
Yeah.
But are they really? And I love this. It says the term supply chain has been uttered about 3,000 times in investor earnings calls this year, right? So here's the deal. We made a bunch of money while we were kind of hammering everything down people's throats and all the workers' throats and everything. Oops, they woke up. Now we got a supply chain issue.
Yeah, well, and a lot of them are trying to solve a new problem with an old technology, and that's part of the issue as well. And that's why
old levels of thinking. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
Correct. Yeah.
Put your arms around the problem, control, dominate. It's not working anymore.
Right.
It just isn't. And it's no more effective than all these conferences that are out in the world now saying, I don't care if there's a pandemic, everybody show up.
Yeah.
At least we're seeing hybrid conferences like the one we'll be at in Southeast Asia and Singapore FinTech Festival. And having experienced that for 3 years, both from 60,000 people all showing up in one place to how that organization of that conference has gone global down to, ads popping up because they know I've been there. That's interesting. Right.
Well, and virtually you can actually get more accomplished and really target who you want to talk to, what information you want to receive at a conference versus walk around and just be overwhelmed with, your 2 minutes of discussion time with somebody in a booth, which you're not discussing with the CEO or with, normally it's with, the individuals they have just going to a conference.
But isn't it fascinating that we can do that, and we've started to solve these problems of virtual meetings,
Right.
but we can't solve this problem.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. We can't get supplies on our grocery shelves. We can't get supplies to buy things. We've got containers and ships backed up like crazy. And why is that happening? Well, and why did we not predict this? Well, it turns out, kind of, once again, we started to talk about this. The world started to talk about this from simplifying supply chain management and managing multiple cloud platforms to tracking pharmaceuticals from point A to point B. Blockchain and cryptocurrency work hand in hand. Need we say more? Now, that was February 2021. So, the future of cryptocurrencies helps maintain authenticity, traceability throughout the supply chain. Yeah, if you have the tools. If it's more than just speculative trading of a simple token that can be minted in about 20 minutes. Right. So we talk a lot about utility and actually providing that depth, as you said, new technologies behind it.
Right.
But, we knew it was coming, and obviously it made a huge impact. Wrote about this one after I was in China in 2019, and it was published in Forbes. Right?
Right.
So there you go. I mean, how can we say more about that? Do we need to say more about that? Cryptocurrency, blockchain, all these functions are clearly there. But if all you do is focus on that narrow world of, gee, what's my pop? And what's my little ups, down, pump and dump or fee off of it instead of utility of the blockchain, you're kind of leaving the bigger picture out of the whole recipe.
Yeah, you are. But there's a spiritual leader. His name's Michael Beckwith. That he has a saying that I just love. It's pain pushes until vision pulls. So a lot of this now is, because of the pain points that are happening, a lot of this now is starting to be integrated finally versus talk.
Yeah, well, it is and it isn't. I mean, we still have these big arms around what does centralized software, what does centralized cloud look like, and it's going to take time to shift that. Yeah, and it's going to take these kind of movements. I'm sorry, like you got to step out there on. And let somebody try and drive a tractor who can barely drive their car to work, right? You have to let that happen. You have to watch that happen and kind of sit back and chuckle and go, oh, good, good on you. Have fun with that, So there's a lot of opportunity out there, and we've seen that. We talked about this actually on One of the World From Here's before about how the financial sector is seeing the same kind of disruption in a different way with DeFi, and it becoming $100 billion sector, right? Well, again, is that really a huge surprise? And what can you do with all of that? And so, again, we go back to, well, how does blockchain and crypto tie into a fundamental? Like, what is fundamental? So here you go. U.S. News and World Report started talking about the 6 best blockchain stocks and ETF. 6.
Wow.
That's the key number there. 6. Out of the world of opportunity. 6.
They couldn't even do a top 10 back then.
Exactly. The blocks in blockchain are chunks of data stored together, blah, 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 blah. That means these digital records are useful for companies involved in industries such as banking. Yes, of course. Healthcare, supply chain management, more. I mean, this has been going on, and these words are out there. And we've got a universe of 6 that are good. Right. As you said, not even a top 10 list.
Not even top.
What do you do with that? Where do you start counting? And number 6, started counting backwards. At least, who was it that used to count backwards? The top 10.
Oh.
I'm getting it backwards. Come on.
Oh my
Help me
God.
out here.
The late night.
It was the Tonight Show.
Yeah, late night. Oh,
Anyway.
boy.
So
David
this is
Letterman.
kind of what Letterman. It was Letterman, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of what it looks like. I'm cool. I got the golden ticket. And that's what crypto is today. It doesn't need to be that, right? It actually isn't what the foundation or fundamental is about, but that's what we're seeing. And it's interesting that we're now getting to actually exposure of what this is, and that we're getting a more kind of rounded approach. We talked last week about which big corporations are adopting this, and the mainstream knowledge that this probably isn't the best way to get involved with blockchain. This isn't the way to put every business on blockchain. So I'm going to say it right now. We're going to put every business on blockchain at BlockCerts. Every business that touches us, guess what? You're in the blockchain business. You already are solving these problems way before you even know their problems. You may never even see them in your industry or in your organization. They may be in the industry. You won't see them in your organization. That's what we're doing at BlockCerts. That's what we do. We don't do this. We do that. We solve utility problems for businesses with blockchain and crypto and tokens and all the things it can do. Because you can do all that with one token if you know what you're doing.
Right. And that's the huge change and transformation, is that we've gone from where blockchain and crypto used to be, highly technical. You would have to be a scientist, a programmer, et cetera, to now creating the ability for everybody to get on the blockchain through a simple app.
And we talk about it all the time.
Right.
If you want to know how that works, if you want to know how these things work, and you're a coder, call us, jump online, go to our careers page, go. We got some of the hottest Web 3.0 stuff out there. If you're a crypto day trader, there's lots of people better at that, and YouTubers out there doing that. If you're a business though, and you want to know how to beat the competition and get ahead of the game and use these things that are evolving, that's BlockCerts Blockchain. That's why we did this in the first place. And it only made sense. It made sense a long time ago to look at these things. Look at this. Crypto risk creeps into 7.1 trillion worth of stocks. Trillion. Like, this is the economy. This is the new economy. This is the new world. And it's the new principles of accounting, equity financing, and the end of accounting, the end of the way the world was. Oh, that was 2016 too. So as you can see, I thought a lot about this stuff before building, when we first came up with BlockCerts Blockchain. May 4th, 2016 is when BlockCerts Blockchain was born. Right. And that's recorded too. That's right there. You can go see it. Very first thought, I was back in Boston. I was at MIT and Microsoft and the government spaces. I'm watching all this go on. I'm like, hey, guess what? This is what's going to happen in this world with these kinds of technologies. And I wasn't the only one. Obviously, I think I need to kind of give a little timeline here. Bitcoin 2008, 2009 spurred that. So let's look at inflection points for a minute, right?
Yeah. So
the Great Recession, mortgages, the banks all kind of fading, doing stuff behind the scenes, right? Caused the Great Recession, right? Go watch the movie The Big Short.
Right.
It's pretty good. Or ask Bob, our resident mortgage banker.
Or Bobby, who knows the Big Short.
Or
personally,
or Miles even. Ask
Miles,
any of our guys. Like, the mortgage guys know this inside and out, what was going on, and lived it, and as did many of us. Then we get into so Bitcoin kind of changed and started that whole movement of what DeFi, the end of an era. And then we kind of came into, so that was Bitcoin. Then blockchain started evolving, right? And we
Right.
came forward into the next step of, well, will blockchain be able to do anything in business? And it was 2015 when Ethereum came out.
Right.
So there was a period of about 4 or 5 years. Then Ethereum came out. 2016, that's when I got really engaged. I was actually working on blockchain in 2013, 2014. And I saw this and I saw what some of the challenges were of Ethereum back then, which was gas. And I'm like, how can we do these transactions in a business-like way, in the way business actually works? And that's when we looked at the code of Ethereum, which was pretty brilliant, and said, we can fork off of that and build a new model. And that's where BlockCerts Blockchain came from. But this idea of decentralized finance, which, as these authors said, is likely to have a significant impact on banks, how banks operate in the future, and even has the potential to shift the structure of the whole financial system at a macroeconomic level, right?
Right.
So that it was going to change. It always was going to change that. And this has been going on for over a decade now.
Yeah. Well, you look at things that are still amazingly clunky. I was talking with someone last night. You mentioned Miles, but someone last night about notary.
Miles isn't clunky.
Yeah, no, not Miles, but a friend who fills up his tank in the morning. He's a notary. Yeah. He goes and takes copies of driver's licenses. Highly inefficient way of notarizing who people are for contracts. Paper intensive. When there's this very simplistic solution that we've developed that eliminates the need for all of that just through authentication.
Exactly.
But that's just one example of decentralized and finance and how that's all changing as we speak.
Yeah. So basically, boiling all this down, it comes down to what really is crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, or CDB, not CBD, CDB, and valuation, and values. What is it? Like social values, the valuation of enterprises, and the value that people are getting out of whatever they're doing, right?
Right.
And so the corporate terminology, we've talked about this too, the corporate speak on that is ESG. How do we fulfill our ESG obligations? Economic, sustainable, and governance, right? So those kinds of things are all built in naturally. And when we did that, that's when we started looking at, well, you need to be able to access that new financial system. There's some brilliant stuff out there coming. Super fast transactions. We showed last week that Visa's involved in crypto, and and accepting cryptocurrencies. PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, all of them. That's the main DeFi or financial ecosystem, and guys really taking the lead on getting on the rail or taking those rails forward, right?
Yeah.
And in
payments.
meantime, what's that?
I said payments.
Payments.
When you look at the financial system, that's what makes the world tick.
That's right.
Yeah.
But guess what? What makes the world really tick are all those businesses and people behind those businesses doing the work.
Right. Right.
Because where's the value? The disconnect is, where's the value on any of these tokens if there's not a utility behind it?
Yeah.
If there's not a function behind it, where is the value? Honestly.
Well, I mean, it's quicksand.
You can't.
Right.
You can't answer the question.
No, there isn't. Yeah.
And so it's been talked about for a long time, but really it boils down to sustainable work creation. Yes, check. Fundamental utility across market sectors, check. And all stakeholder involvement to keep people happy off the picket lines, in the offices, or at their home working productively. Check.
Yeah. And benefiting from all of that.
Benefiting from the work they actually do.
Right.
That's tokenomics.
Right.
That's what it is. That's the solution to supply chain, the solution to the Great Resignation, the solution to Striketober, right? That's called work freedom. And all you got to do, frankly, is turn it on. game on, because it's here. And there's lots of players out there, lots and lots of players, right?
Right.
Fundamentally. So anyway, that gives kind of today's rant, if you will.
Yeah, the context of putting it all together.
Yeah, the context of putting it all together about, we talked about the long game last week, and I found this, the oldest time capsule, this is in Osaka, Japan. It was put up by Panasonic in 1970, and it's going to be opened in 5,000 years. Right. That's long-term thinking.
Yeah.
Right? In 5,000 years. So long-term, what is that? 6,970 is the year. If we survive as a race and a planet that long is when that's supposed to open up. And so I was looking and I was thinking, well, what about all these things that we knew, and who knew it, and who knew, and what are inflection points? Like, there was an inflection point in the 1980s that created most of these companies, and the software still being used today. Like my favorite rant is email, right? And the inbox.
Yeah.
And what companies emerged out of that. And then the second inflection point was this idea of the internet, the broad internet that we take for granted now. It's just there. And now we're at this, and we've talked a lot about this third inflection point. That second inflection point was very similar to what we see today. Most of the .com bets that had all the hype, all the promoter, all the what you might have called influencers back then blew up. Right?
Yeah, a lot of our stock that we invested in back then blew up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there were a few major winners who we all know who they are today, right?
Right.
And
but the underlying technology that was there sparked a whole generation of new business, which is the inflection point to today.
It was the inflection point. It sparked where we're at today.
Right.
And this is the next inflection point. Right. But, who would have called who was going to survive? There's one guy that was out there pretty much saying the same thing. So I decided I'm not going to have to say this again. This guy in 1999 was saying it's incredibly volatile. But even long-term, I believe that it's very easy to predict that there are going to be lots of successful companies born of the internet that are going to have very large market caps and so on. I also believe that today where we sit is very hard to predict who those companies are. Important, lasting companies are going to be born of the internet. So you can make bets. We'll be disappointed in ourselves, but there are no guarantees. If you go back and look at the companies created by the PC revolution 1980, you wouldn't have predicted the 5 winners.
Yeah.
Right. So the reality is this guy, if anybody knows who it is, I'm really kind of said, look, we're going for it. We're doing it. And maybe it'll work. We're going to work really hard and we'll be disappointed in ourselves if it doesn't. And actually in that same, you can find this on YouTube. It just popped up for me. And he says, internet schminternet. So, it was very prolific, very, very profound back then. And obviously we know what Amazon is today. So
and Tim, he was also the master of the pivot from where he started in harnessing the technology was there to pivoting to other things that worked.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, with all of that, we get in there and we get these questions all week long. This week, I just had to kind of step back and say, well, look, this has all been talked about. It's great. It's great media stuff. It really is. It's great for the media outlets. It's great for the articles and things like that. But it's nothing that hasn't been recognized, talked about, or whatever. And a few of us started building for this back half a decade, in my case, well over a decade ago, and saying I can go way back before 2016 into writing. I don't write much anymore because it was just kind of like talking to a wall. Maybe we'll start that again. But the point was, and still is, this. I'm ending with this today. You know,
There's our Willy
told
Wonka.
you so. And the truth is, no, I don't. I love saying that.
Yeah.
I love saying "told you so." And all you have to do is look at history. It honestly is there. Blockchain, crypto. You want to be part of that? Subscribe here. Subscribe to BlockCerts. We're going to keep talking about this. If you want to really dig in, become a token holder. We'll tell you how to do it. And we'll tell you how to use utility and technology and get into the game before you either run into a problem or you get left behind. Because that's really the two options. We're used to zeros and ones in the computer business.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much 0 and 1 at this point. You want to be a 0, you want to be a 1.
Right. And, let us take care of that and simplify the new tech to allow you to do this transformation in your business, because it truly is for virtual business, which every business is virtual. You'll get more productivity and just many, many different benefits in doing so. So
that's right. So Dan, like next week, please pop your questions in there, get them to us, get in our Telegram community, ask us questions or what have you. Keeps us going. We'll dig into some detailed questions next week. And then in 2 weeks, we got a big, big, big new framework and format for the world from here.
We do.
And some pretty damn big announcements. Can I say that?
Yeah, we're stepping up our game, and got some great things to talk about here in a couple weeks.
And to release.
Yeah, and to release. Absolutely. So very exciting times, and we've you built the framework that will
we have an amazing, incredible global team.
Yeah.
And as I told our team this week, we run our BlockCerts SOAR meeting. We're going to increase that in 2022 so everybody can soar with BlockCerts. But as I told the team this week, in the words of Isaac Newton, if I have seen anything, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. Right. And we are standing on the shoulders of giants in technology and in the world. It's not that hard to see if you choose to open your eyes and just make the climb up there. So you can make the climb with us. We got a great global team of people who actually deliver and know what utility means in blockchain and crypto and actually getting it out there. So 2 weeks, we're going to have some really cool stuff to take that even to the next level.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. I know you always say something at the end, Tim.
I always say, stay safe, stay healthy, and get blockchain digital, for God's sake. Every business on blockchain. Hashtag every business on blockchain. That's what's going to happen.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great weekend.